Hello everybody, I'm Scott,
I'm Clint.
and we got to tell you, we're excited that you have this DVD because you're going to now have a geodesic biodome.
I'm telling you, it's something special. Once you have the opportunity to build one and grow in one, you're going to realize that it definitely is a life-changing opportunity.
It makes all the difference in the world.
So we're going to take you on site and take you through the journey with us. We're going to show you how to cut your kit and how to assemble your kit.
I say let's get going.
Let's make it happen.
All right.
So we're going to take you on site in Ohio. You're going to see that when we get there, that the foundation has already been prepared for us. And in this case, they used 6x6 pre-treated wood to create the foundation for us to build the kit on top of. You don't necessarily need to do that. You can do it in a lot of different ways that we're going to explain in the video that will help it so you can save more money and still have an exceptional product. All right, so we've got our foundation for our dome. This is one of the most important parts, is finding the right spot to put your dome. And that's where you figure out what size would fit into the area that you have available. Today we're showing you a 20-foot dome, but these domes can be 10 feet, 14 feet, 16 feet, 18 feet, 20 feet. One of the things you look at when you're picking the spot is how much light am I going to get year-round in this location. Domes they're not magical. They have to have sunlight for them to work. So the more sunlight that you can get to them, the more able you are to grow year-round in these structures. So you look for a nice sunny spot. If you have trees, you may need to cut one or two down. And you also want to find a place that's flat. It's really hard to build a dome on a hill. They don't like to stand that way. But we took 6x6s that were pre-treated so that they're made to be in contact with the dirt. We cut them at the same exact length as we cut the bottom of the knee wall. So 6 feet 2 1/8 inches. And we cut them and put them in place. And then we leveled them with a level, making sure that they were level. If we have a level foundation, everything else fits together much better than if one side's higher than the other. It creates complications that you don't want to deal with. So what we do after we lay these boards down, this foundation that we laid, we want to make sure everything is the right dimension. So we're building a 20-foot in diameter dome. So from point to opposite point, it should end up at 20 feet. So hold that on that point. You'll come to this point, and obviously I've done some work. We're right at 20 feet. So it's kind of a fun game you play with your friend and say, hey, go to the next one. And he goes to the next one, he holds it, and then you put it down and you say, I'm about a quarter of an inch off. So then you move the wall, you put some pressure on it until you get it to 20 feet. And you do this over and over and over again until everything says 20 feet. And once you have that done, you've set yourself up for success for the rest of the build. If it's not perfect 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, it's going to be difficult when you start putting the struts together. And when you get to the very top, it's going to be a nightmare. So work really hard to make sure that your base is firm and at 20 feet. The other ways are basically laying down gravel so you don't have dirt going up against your boards. Making sure you have a level gravel circle, and then taking the bottom of the knee wall, which we'll be doing on top of this, and just putting that directly against the rock. And then you would take your rebar and stake that directly into the ground. So that's the way most people do it, and that's the most economical way of doing it. but there are lots of different ways you can do it. So if you notice, we only laid down 9 of the 10 sides of this 20-foot geodesic biodome. And the reason is this is where the door is going to go. There's a nice little path coming right through here. This is where they want the door. So what we're going to do is things are going to change a little bit because the door is actually going to be inset to help a little bit with the snow. One of the things I highly recommend doing prior to your dome construction is laying down any electrical pipes or water pipes or propane pipes prior to putting things down. It makes it really hard to run a ditch witch when you've got a foundation in place. So what we did here is we ran the ditch witch. You can see that we've got piping already underneath. And this is going to be water, electric, Wi-Fi, and propane. So, but since we have this hole, we want to make sure that we're being safe while we're doing all this work. So we took these 2x12s and covered them up so there's no way for us to fall into the holes. And same thing out here. We took this piece of siding and laid it down. But it's definitely a good idea to do it prior. A lot of people don't have any water, any electricity, or any propane going to it, and that's fine. You can always run a hose to it. You can run an extension cord to it. That's the least expensive way of doing it. And it's actually the way I've been doing it for the last 3 or 4 years. So one of the most important tools that we need for this project is a compound miter saw. And the reason they call it a compound miter saw is because it lets you turn this way, but it also lets you turn this way. So you can turn this way and this way. So if you don't have one of these compound miter saws, it's okay. You can go to your local rental center and rent one. They usually let you rent one for the half day or the full day or a couple days. It makes it very simple. You don't have to spend very much money. So the one thing you have to look for is that it goes to 60 degrees. So if you look down here, this one goes to 60 degrees, meaning I can rotate this and the line will go to 60 degrees. I need this in order to cut my B struts that are cut at 60-degree arrowheads. Another tool that's very handy for this project is a digital protractor. This allows us to get very specific on the angles that we're cutting. So the way this works is you're going to put it against the back wall, you're going to angle it out, you're going to put it down, and we're going to want it to be set at 0. So if that doesn't say 0, you're going to set the protractor to 0, and that's going to make sure that we're working off of the right angles. So now when we go to cut our 18-degree angle, we're going to slide and we're going to watch the number change to 18. It's upside down for you, but you can see what I'm talking about. You see how just barely touching it makes a big difference. We get to 18 degrees and you're going to push this and hold it down. Take your digital protractor, move it away, and be able to cut your boards. It's time to start working on the actual dome. The first thing we're going to do is cut the bottom or the base of the knee wall. And this is the base of the knee wall is either going to sit on your gravel foundation or on your 6x6s, depending on which way you choose to do it. The base of the dome is going to look like this. You see how that's a trapezoid? So what's going to happen is we're going to cut 10 of these, and they're all going to fit together to create a decagon. Okay? So this is what we're going to build. This is a small miniature version just to give you an idea of what it's going to look like. So throughout this video, I'm going to talk about measurements. And I'm going to say long to long. Measure long to long. And that's what I'm talking about is the top part of the trapezoid is long to long. Down here would be short to short. The first step to creating the base of your dome, the base of your knee wall, is to do 18-degree cuts. We're going to measure out 6 feet 2 1/8 inch long to long on this base. First, what you want to do is set your saw to 18 degrees. So what we'll do is we're going to get close. We're going to go to where it says 18 degrees on our saw. Then we're going to pull out our protractor turn it on. We're going to put the saw down. And we're going to adjust it till it's perfect. So you see how it says 18 degrees? When you get to your 18 degrees, make sure you lock your saw in place. That way it doesn't move anywhere. Now we're prepared and ready to make the first cut on your base. Grab your 2x4x8. The first thing you're going to do is cut off one of the ends. So we're at 18 degrees. We're going to come down. We just made one end of the trapezoid. So after you make your cut, flip your board over, and that will put your board exactly where you need it. You're able to make your measurement and your next cut. So we're doing 6 feet 2 1/8 inch. You're going to measure from the point. So look here, we're going to do 6 feet 2 1/8 inch. We're going to mark all the way on the edge of the board. And that's going to make it so when we cut on the edge, we're at 6 feet 2 1/8 when we have our angle here. If I were to mark in the middle of the board, then your angle would be way over here and it'd be a 6 feet 4 inches. So you're always marking on the very edge of your board. Now we're going to make our second cut to make our trapezoid. You saw that we made our mark right here. It's very important that when you come down, that you're cutting on this side of the line. If you were to cut on this side, you're going to be short. You want to cut right there. So this is the board that you just created. You see how it looks exactly like the smaller board I showed you, just longer. 10 of these are going to fit together to make the base of your knee wall. Cut 10 of these. Let me show you how this is going to come together. I've got my little small trapezoid here. We just cut this longer one. That's how they're going to fit together to create the base of your knee wall. So 10 of those together will create a decagon, which will be all the way around. It'll look like a circle. It's beautiful. So we're putting together this knee wall now. So we have our foundation. We've gotten our boards that we cut at 18 degrees, exactly the same as the foundation was laid at 18 degrees. We're going to follow the outside line. So we're going to come together and make sure it fits perfectly. We're going to take a screw. I'm just going to go right into that wood. Okay, and just keep going around.
Okay, so after you get the bottom plate screwed on all the way around, so you're screwing it down into the foundation, what we're going to want to do is come into the side here, because what you want to do is pinch this together. It's going to do two things. It's going to hold each one of these together, and it's going to lift up, or we're going to deliberately lift up if things are not quite even, as you can see here. And then what I want to do is just come in at an angle with a screw here, tap in on the side, make Clint work. That's it, that bite's on there. You do that all the way around, and then this piece becomes one solid piece is what happens, and that's what you want.
So the one we left open though was for the door. And the way that this door works is a storm door. It needs a 36-inch opening. So I created the 42-inch hole for my door that is really going to be a 36-inch cutout. But because I'm going to bolster the door frame, I need it at 42 inches. So I cut 10 of these. So So I'm going to lay this in here. I'm going to take my square and mark both sides. So I'll cut this section out, and then we're going to build up with the rest of it. Now that we've created the base of the knee wall, we're going to create the studs that will connect the base to the top of the knee wall, which is the bottom of the dome. This is exciting. We're making progress. So these studs are going to be cut at 29 inches. They're straight cuts, super simple. We're going to cut 40 of them. There'll be 4 studs on each section of the base of the knee wall. So mark at 29 inches. Make sure your saw is set at 0. So here's your stud. Let me explain real quickly why we chose this 29 inches. We're all about saving you money. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a 32-inch tall knee wall. So when you buy your siding, that's 96 inches. You can take 96 divided by 32, and you'll be able to get 3 pieces out of each sheet of siding. So you got 29 inches. You'll have a stud on top, a stud on the bottom, which is 1.5 inches. 1.5 inches plus 29 plus 1.5 inches, 32 inches. So we're going to lay out our studs that are going to go up to connect to the top of the knee wall, which is the base of our geodesic biodome. So since we're going to be putting siding on this side in panels, they're 4-foot panels, so we need to make sure that there's a stud at 4 feet. So that's the first thing I'm just going to double check here and mark. So I'm going to go from the point, I'm going to mark 4 feet. I'm going to take this speed square, and then when we come and put our studs in, we're going to center it right on that line. So to make it easier, I always put a line on the top. The other places we're going to put these studs is right here at the base, at the very point, and I'll show you how to screw that in. But we're also going to pick right at about 2 feet. That way at least 2 pieces of insulation are going to fit correctly. So what we're going to do here on this angle is we want to get close to the angle as possible, because what's going to happen is we're going to have 2 studs side by side that are going to basically turn into a 4x4 and give a lot of stability to this dome. So we're going to follow this line in order to be able to put the 2 studs together. So you follow the line, and then I like to, on the outside, to have this point right here if you want to come in close. This right here is even. So we're even down the line, and we're even here on this corner. And then what you'll do is we do something called a toenail, where you take a nail, and we're going to screw it directly into this board. I'm going to have Scott hold this for me. It's always easier to do any job with 2 people. So a toenail is going in at this angle right here. So we're going to go into this that way. So the way I always do it is I always start straight to get the hole started, and then I come back out. Now that I've got a hole, it's really easy to angle down. So just like that, and then I come on the other side and do the exact same thing. Okay, and just to demonstrate the concept, let's put this one right next to it. Same exact thing. We're going to toenail it. Right there. And that makes this pretty sturdy. But on top of that, I want these boards to be married together forever. So I just take a screw and go, what I usually do is one on the top, one on the bottom. So once I finish on this side, I always come back to the other side to get really good compression from both ways. Going in the middle. I put that in. So we're gonna put a stud on every line all the way around the dome. And then when we come back, we're gonna put the top to cap it off.
Simple as that.
So we're laying the base plate, the bottom plate to our door. We're gonna do the same thing we did the rest of the dome. Just screw it right in. We're gonna make sure it's even. Okay, and once that's in, we're gonna put two of these in. One right on the edge, and one up against this other one like we have in the past. So I usually do this one first. Okay. That's super strong. Then we're going to put this one right along the edge here. We're going to repeat the process right here. Right now we're cutting the top of the knee wall, which is also the bottom of your dome. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it look like this. This is the end goal here. So we want it to be beautiful on the bottom, square, and on the top we're going to cut these angles into it. And there's a reason why we're cutting these angles just into the top. Let me show you. Later, after we cut our arrow points to make this whole thing come together, they're going to be able to come right in here at the base of your dome, just like that. So you see why we're doing it this way? So right now, we're going to cut 10 of these. Let me show you how to make that first cut that you'll do on both sides so that they can fit together. Now that we're working on the base of the dome, top of the knee wall, what you're going to do is you're going to cut 10 more just like you did on the base. So you're going to create 10 more trapezoids. They're 6 feet 2 and 1/8 inch long. You've already done it for the base, do it again for the top. So now that you've got these cut, you're going to put them down on your saw. You're going to adjust your saw to 60 degrees. You can use your digital protractor to ensure that you're doing 60 degrees. Walk it down. And this is where it gets fun. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the halfway mark. So we start at the 1, it's 1.5 inches long. I'm going to go right to 3/4 inch. I'm going to make a little dot here on the end. And that dot is going to be where I'm going to take my saw blade to. This is going to be the first time that you actually do a compound miter cut. This is a new skill that you're going to be able to use the whole way through this dome project, and it's going to make your friends think that you're a genius. Check this out. You're going to unlock, pull the plug, and every saw is going to be a little bit different, so you got to play with what needs to happen. You're going to start tilting the saw. You see how you're getting a tilt? Okay. So when you come and you've got your blade straight up and down, you see that there's a large gap right there. we don't want that gap. We want to cut the same angle that we had created before, which is an 18-degree angle. So the trick is you tilt this head until it becomes flush with your board. That's the big secret of this whole dome, is tilting the head until it becomes flush. And once it's flush, you lock the head back down, which will hold it in place. Okay? So now what we are trying to accomplish is we're going to cut right on the line, the middle of the line that we made. So what I do is I start cutting. And you see I wasn't there. So what happens is I'm going to continue to move my board until I know I'm perfectly there. So I'll show you again. What that created was that perfect entry for your struts. So now that you've done one side with this beautiful angle, what I would do is I put this board down and do the other 9 of them on one side until every one of them has one side cut exactly like this. Then you're going to come back and do this. You're going to flip your board over. And the most important part is you need this bevel on the same side of the wood. So in this case, the bevel's pointing up. I want the bevel on this side to be pointing up as well. So since we're trying to keep the bevel up,